Thank you for joining us for day 2 of the Smart Cities Miami Conference. Those of you who were with us for day 1 yesterday, I thank you for your dedication. It's a great day with great discussions and thrilling, especially for me, second concluding keynote, which was terrifying and exciting at the same time. Today, the morning session of day 2 is developed in collaboration with our esteemed sponsors, LC and Broadway Maylan. It's actually part of the Miami Think Tank series that was launched last year with their support. So I take the opportunity to thank them again for bringing the think tank, which actually started in Madrid, Miami, and making all this happen. I'm delighted and honored to welcome the mayor of Coral Gables as the guest moderator for this year's session, the Honorable Vince C. Lago, the champion of sustainable development, transportation, and energy conservation initiatives. Appointed to the Miami-Dade Transportation Planning Organization Board, he actively represents Coral Gables' interests in these areas. Mayor Lago is also committed to the arts and the culture of the city. This is evident in his involvement with Locust Projects, a non-profit contemporary art organization, as well as in his active roles on the City of Miami's Arts Entertainment Council and on the board of directors for the Coral Gables Museum. Mayor Lago also keeps in touch with the private sector with an executive position at the management and design firm that specializes in commercial construction projects, particularly in the medical and educational sectors. Thank you, Mayor Lago, for joining us this year. I also welcome back to this forum Jorge Ponce Dawson, the original curator of the Miami Think Tank series. Jorge is the director of Broadway Maylan Madrid, where he leads projects in Spain, Europe, North Africa, and South America. He is the creative force behind clubdeculturas.com, the first global reading and debate community in Spanish, which today has more than 2,000 members. And now I'm going to leave the stage in the capable hands of these gentlemen to introduce the panelists and also tell us a bit more about the theme of today's Miami Think Tank.
Thank you very much, Rodolfo. It's a pleasure to me to be here again. Fantastic to come to fantastic Miami to talk about a very important topic. What I'm going to do is basically try to introduce them better, do a kind of brief presentation to situate the debate, and then we will start with the questions and the discussion between us. So I'm going to talk about AI and the cities. Just a bit of background. This is our presence in the world. Broadway Maylan is a 66 years old architectural, urbanism, and design practice. And most of the ideas I'm going to share with you today are based on the experience we have operating in the world, doing all kinds of projects. So AI is presented as the new great technological revolution. It's a new paradigm that is going to transform all human activities. This presentation focuses on how this revolution is affecting our relationship with cities, just in terms of governance, but as well in our interaction with the city. And for the first time, I have to say that cities are no longer controlled exclusively by humans. We are starting to delegate the decisions in respect to the cities to a new tool, the artificial intelligence. This is a very fluid matter that is changing by the hour. So how can we get a kind of a photo of the current situation? I suggested to look at one of the recently published reports about the status of AI in respect to the city that has been published last February on artificial intelligence and the city, which is a series of articles by scholars and researchers that give us a pretty accurate situation analysis of the case. But this will be dated in a pair of months, so if you want to read it, you need to round. I will follow the same structure this book is proposing, dividing the analysis in these 4 chapters. Mobility, because one of the most visible elements of AI is the way we are managing traffic and the emergence of autonomous vehicles. Urban robots, which are physical devices that are starting to interact with us in cities, and we will see some samples. City brains, which are the software pieces that we are putting together to manage the massive amount of data that we collect in cities, to organize them and to take the most efficient decisions. And urban software, where we all have a say, because in our mobiles, we are relying more and more on apps that are based on artificial intelligence. So in terms of mobility, autonomous vehicles is a promise that is yet to be fulfilled. It was a long time when we started to look at it and hoping that there would be a reality in the very near future. It was not so fast, but it is progressing, and we are seeing a series of trials, even in the US, for example, these Waymo's robotaxis in California, which are starting to be implemented. These experiments are creating the opportunity of improving the technology, but as well to review the mobility culture, and that's where the debate is. Are we going just to increase the capacity of our cars to get in some autonomy, or we are going to revise the way we move around cities thanks to the new technology, to go for models of more proximity, reducing journeys and going for shared strategies, shared mobility. That's the debate now, and it's not clear what is going to be the outcome, because majority of the trials are being controlled by tech companies and automobile companies, which are really having a commercial focus, and they are not concerned much about the change of the mobility culture. And that's where I think the administration and the decision makers have a say. The question is, dependence on cars are going to be reinforced or going to be questioned with this new technology? We see there robotaxis already operating in various cities in China. This new technology is being as well implemented for the logistics, and we see some companies doing delivery with autonomous trucks. Like, for example, Too Simple, which is starting to do some trials in the US. We see a lot of experiments around the world. For example, these shuttles in the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park in London, but majority of them are designed for not to fail. So they are not experimental enough. It's more marketing than any other thing. The question is how this new technology is going to reshape the city, because always technology helps us to redefine the shape of cities. And there are some samples of rethinking cities which are very encouraging, like the one in Barcelona with the development of the superblocks, which means that we are going to restrict the traffic through the cities to certain roads and pedestrianizing the rest to be recovered by the people. And I really believe in this model that could be working very well with the autonomous vehicles, probably dedicating specific lanes to them for both delivery and transportation through the main axis, but restricting the traffic in the rest of the streets. That's the debate we have to have. urban robots are starting to appear in our cities. During the pandemic, in this city in the UK, Milton Keynes, they established a series of robots to deliver grocery that worked very well. At that moment, they were not able to contact each other because of the illness, and this started to be implemented and became very successful. They are robots that are self-commanded, and they are learning from the going through by the city, so they are improving the capacity to take decisions when they confront with uncertainties in traffic or in difficult situations in the city, and they are becoming familiar with the neighbors, and they are now being implemented in many cities in the UK. We'll see that more and more, as we will see more and more robots that are proposed to help the tourism, to give answer to questions, to orient the people. This is the case of these robots in Munich, which are starting to fulfill the streets. As well, we see urban robots at home. Most of them focus on security issues, like for example the Always Home Cam, which is a kind of a drone that fly around homes to control who is there, if there is an intruder. As well, the home awareness systems, a system of drones that control the surroundings of houses. So we are becoming in a kind of an evolution towards a surveillance society. That's another question related with AI. As well, we are seeing urban robots doing services like cleaning, for example, in airports. This is the case of the airport of Singapore, where the cleaners have been replaced by these devices, which are intelligent enough to detect what are the dirtiest areas in the airport to go there. They can detect when people is there not to disturb them. Each of them has a name, as if they were a person. The problem is that they are replacing the labor. City brains is becoming a fashion word because, especially in Asia, cities are a massive collector of data coming from the infrastructure, from the traffic, from the people. How you can understand the interconnection between all that data and take the decisions to be the most efficient possible outcome. And that's where city brains come into the scene, and they are developed by the tech giants. In Asia, for example, Alibaba or Huawei have developed very strong city brains which are now being implemented in all the major capitals. What's happening is the governance of city are becoming a compound mission between the government itself and these kind of devices that are pretty obscure in the internal logic. As well, in Asia, where they have less concerns about civil rights, they are integrating into these city brain systems facial recognition systems and establishing a kind of a surveillance system that controls everybody, so everybody is detected in real time where they are, who you are, what are you doing. If any conflict, they will easily determine who was responsible, and this is connected with the police, and that's a possible future scenario for the implementation of the AI. And finally, the urban software, which is an area where we all have something to say because we have a lot of these devices supported by the AI in our mobiles. Caring is becoming a matter of connection, and that's where Alexa Together is coming to. And for example, this kind of system that could use to take care of our loved ones. Or in the medical sector, in China, they are implementing what they call 1-minute clinics in the streets. And you can come into these booths and do some analysis, test your pressure, and if you don't pass the test, you can interact with the doctor through the screen. And in case you need more further control, you are directed to a proper clinic. But this is a way to use the artificial intelligence to improve the healthcare of the society. From the point of view of designers, we are using more and more artificial intelligence. This is a development we are doing in Broadway, Maylan. It's a new module of helping us to transform our sketches by hand into fantastic renderized images to be done in just a matter of seconds. You see our drawing is the one on the top, but when you pass it by the artificial intelligence could be converted into the other two images through a series of interactions, you can arrive to the final image, avoiding very sophisticated rendering software. As well, Midjourney and other artificial modules are becoming very helpful for us to improve creativity. And just by prompting them with proper instructions, you can get fantastic images and ideas. And these are some samples of works done in our studio. As well, there are major projects which are announced to be done with the help of the artificial intelligence, like for example, the one Vanderbilt Tower in New York by KPF, which has been determined the shape, the orientation, through a software based on artificial intelligence. So what's next? And this probably is the main question for our debate. Who will design the city of the future? Because we are gradually delegating all decisions on this new tool, and we need to decide, are we going to fully delegate it, or we're going to try to impose our way forward? I think we have major issues in terms of climate change, reducing emissions, save the planet. We cannot leave this very important decision on the hands of the artificial intelligence without our human intervention. So I'm a defender of our participation into this new paradigm. I put as an image the idea of the 15-minute city that I'm a very half defender, because I fear that if we continue in this route of delegating decisions on the AI, we could lose control and arrive to a scenario that is not that nice. Thank you very much. So, Beans, it's all yours.
Morning. How's everybody doing? Well, my background, unlike many of you, and I see a very smart individual who should not be sitting in the back, Raimundo, he's come forward. Raimundo is a person who I hold an incredible respect for. He is a person who has revolutionized the city of Coral Gables. You have to give credit where credit is due as a leader. What ends up happening as elected officials, we find ourselves always shining the light on us. We deserve all the credit. At the end of the day, that's not the truth. There are many, many people who are much smarter than us, who transform, whether it's our business or our city, whatever we have the ability to lead it, or a group of individuals. And I always like to give credit to these individuals. We have a great team in the city of Raimundo. If you get a chance, I ask you to please speak to him. He runs everything in our city in regards to technology. He has transformed our city, when we talk about smart cities, into the leader, not in South Florida, but in the country. We're doing things in our city that no other city do. In regards to smart poles, in regards to, as the doctor mentioned before, issues of sustainability, issues of having the largest 100% electric car fleet in the state, charging networks, initiatives to lower emissions, just technology across the board that is so complicated that even with my background, I have a finance and engineering background, a master's in engineering, I'm still blown away by what this gentleman has done in our city. So I ask you, please, if you can, and I appreciate you indulging me, I wanted to introduce somebody who was at the forefront. Not only that, I think you play 7 instruments. 7? How many instruments do you play? Kind of. He's a very humble individual. But I asked you to spend some time to get to know him because he's a jewel that the city has, and I always pull his chain and say, I hope you never leave the city. So first off, thank you for allowing me to be here. And I'm going to tell you something very quickly after I've introduced Raimundo. I feel like my father, who was a world-class surgeon, felt when I was probably in 7th, 8th, 9th grade, and I came and I showed him at 46, I just turned 46, and I showed him the PC. My dad is still practicing medicine, he's 74, but the guy can barely turn on a computer. And why do I feel like my father felt when I was that age? Because my daughters are 12 and 9, and they run circles around me. I sat down with them last night when I got home late from work, and I said, listen, tomorrow I'm going to be on a panel with some really smart people, much smarter than me. And we're going to be talking about AI. So most of the things that I learned about AI over the last year have been taught to me by people like Raimundo, or by my daughters, who are 12 and 9 years old and happen to go to an exceptional school and are very interested in technology. So I was asked to be the moderator of this panel, and I will do my best. But I'll be honest with you, my knowledge of AI is ever-changing, and it's affecting my business every single day. I'm in engineering and construction management business, and we're facing complete transformation on all fronts based on something that a year ago was an afterthought. Think about it. I have over 70 employees, and in 1 year, our business can be transformed by something as simple as AI. So the first thing I'd like to do is I'd like for everybody to quickly introduce themselves, if you could. Just explain a little bit about what you do and why we're blessed to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. My name is Olivia Ramos. I'm the CEO and founder of Deepblocks. A little bit of my background: I have a master's in architecture from Columbia University and a second master's in real estate development from the University of Miami. Happy to be back here. And we're developing a software. It's coming out of Singularity University. And what we're doing is we've digitized 250 cities, zoning ordinances, over the period of now 5 years. And we're training artificial intelligence to not only digitize the rest of the cities automatically and continue to do the updates automatically, but also to predict zoning changes so that we can begin to find signals for arbitrage in investment in real estate. And that's a bit of a...
We met George already, but I'd like to introduce Terry, also from Kimley, one of the most respected design firms, not only locally, but throughout the country.
Thank you. Go Canes, I'm a University of Miami alumnus, and I've been working in intelligent vehicles and highway systems in smart cities for over 30 years. So I'll share some of my experiences of where we are today in the marketplace relative to the visions of where we can be in the future.
Thank you. So the first question, Olivia, is what do you foresee AI being able to do in regards to the real estate market?
So I think besides having a new way of investing, because now the margins are getting smaller and smaller, so it's about volume and it's about being able to understand things much faster and investing in many more places at once. But also being able to understand, in our case, 250 cities at once, and being able to see that change over a period of 5 years proves incredibly insightful to say, well, why did that work here, and how can that be applied here? So what we're seeing is the ability to look at all the data at once across many cities allows us for the first time to cross-pollinate incentives and strategies on zoning, specifically on the future of our cities. And I think that, that's going to be amazing for policy and for understanding healthy growth.
Oh, when I ask a question, if any of my colleagues here on the panel would like to add a little additional information, please feel free before I move on. Second question, my friend George. What can AI do for architects and design across the board?
Hi, yeah. Thank you, Vince. Well, we are on one side enthusiastic about AI, on the other pretty worried, because we want to protect our own skills and secure they will be meaningful in the future. So what we are trying to do is to reinforce our, if you want, human intelligence in terms of design by the use intelligently artificial tools. So we're trying to think that the artificial intelligence is a tool that could improve our creativity, but not to replace it. So our efforts are on the design side to improve our human skills, but not to replace it. So that's the main focus, because if we don't do that, we are going to be unuseful in the future. And for me, the use of a technology has to be with a human being, not to replace us. So that's our efforts in Broadway Maylan. I think there's going to be major changes. For example, now there is a strong effort in the industry to start doing digital twins, models of the projects built in BIM. All that stuff is going to be accelerated and mostly replaced by the AI tools. So what we need to do is to focus on the design phases and how the AI can help us to be more creative and improve our human design skills. So that's our effort. That's where we are. But we are concerned because we know that in the future, industry like the graphic design or could be replaced by these tools because they are very powerful. And that's the point where we are.
Thank you, George.
I was going to add, I don't think we can ever replace the human touch and beauty of design, even with artificial intelligence. It will be a great tool for us to test alternatives, give us a starting point, but particularly in architecture, the art component, I don't think can ever be replaced.
I can add to that. I think I'll play a little devil's advocate. Let's say it can, right? But think about the possibilities of this gap that we call innovation, that we barely have any funding for, right? Innovation, sustainability, impact. If AI can replace everything we're doing till this point, that gap widens. And there's new possibilities for using our human intelligence there, because AI can only do what we've done before. So now we could do something new, and I think there's a lot of hope there.
I love that optimism. I want to believe on that, so I will be support.
Terry, I'm going to ask you a quick question, and I'm going to follow up after you've given your guidance, because this is something that affects me every single day. So what do you see the role that AI is going to play in regards to the construction industry? This is something that we're facing, all of us, and I want to add a little bit of my background and what I'm seeing over the last year. I'd like to hear from you first.
Yeah, there was a billboard put up in Belgium last year that said, AI, can you build this? In front of a tall story building that was being constructed. There are many challenges that AI can help with, particularly optimization construction techniques. There are folks that are taking thousands of schedules that have been done in the past on mega projects, integrating those and looking where delays occurred and how to optimize and address those risks so every project moves forward more efficiently. Using technology in construction, I think this afternoon we're going to see some great 3D printing in the concrete area. My area in horizontal construction for roadways and streets and bridges, the scale that needs to be replicated in that, it's going to require a lot of investment for contractors. And they've got a model that works, that they trust, that's reliable, and we're much more risk adverse in the United States than we are in other locations because of the litigious nature of our society. So I do think that there's a tremendous opportunity in specialized materials, details, smaller scale type construction. But as we move into that, with the maintenance of construction, there's a lot of machine learning tools that have been tested, particularly based on video analytics software. One tool that we've piloted and has been receiving broad scale adaptation is using video to assess pavement conditions. Sounds very mundane, and it is. Currently, FDOT has 2 people in a van that drives every state highway every year, and it comes down to the fact of one person driving, another assessing qualitatively the rideability of the road, plus downward facing LiDAR that measures things like cracking. So we worked with Carnegie Mellon University, taking a camera, put it on a dash, they developed machine learning techniques that are able to rate the conditions of the pavement, and it correlates much better, it's much more reliable, it's much more predictive, and it allows us to communicate more effectively with elected officials. We can show the video of what's happening, why you need to prioritize this road. The use of sensor technologies for structural assessments using ultrasound is becoming very prominent, particularly in critically strained bridges. And most of the bridges in the United States were built 75 years or more ago. They were designed for a 75-year lifespan. So bridge construction, just like, not like accidents like we saw in Baltimore lately, but we need a major investment. Almost 20% of bridges are rated structurally deficient today. Another area we're testing right now in North Florida is the use of drones, particularly underwater drones. That's the most difficult way to assess structural integrity is underwater. You have to, you gotta go scuba diving, you gotta go down there. We're adapting military technology that is used underwater to do that. And so there's a lot of opportunities in infrastructure and construction and maintenance of infrastructure to use machine learning today. And as we build the data that we need to get to generative AI, and it's going to take years, I think it's going to improve the efficiency of operations. One of the challenges also is what happens to jobs. Currently, to have only about 1/3 of men are graduating from college today. Construction and trucking are two of the primary jobs that you can get to provide a middle-class lifestyle for a family. And as we become more efficient in our construction, we need to find a way to make sure that as we reduce labor, we're finding ways to retrain and provide new opportunities for those people.
Thank you. If I may, I just want to give a little bit more color to these comments. I'm facing this right now in our industry, the construction industry. My firm is in BDI construction. We specialize in hospitals, schools. We do a lot of multifamily work. I have a team of 6 estimators who do an incredible job. They are the backbone of our company. They're hands-on. They see the plans before anybody else does. They work on a pre-construction basis, looking at constructability, value engineering, really getting hands-on, and providing me with a synopsis to make certain decisions as we move forward with the client. We sit down probably over 6 months to a 1-year period. One of the projects we just finished was Madrid World Center. We did the Jewel Box. It's a beautiful box, beautiful project, very complex, steel building. But we worked for 2 years with the architects, using BIM technology to really understand how to navigate these very complex waters on a project that was very complicated. I bring all this up because, again, like I said, I'm a novice, I'm learning every day. And some of the technology and the software that we use at BDI, the reps come and meet with us, probably on a quarterly basis, to talk about new offerings, making us more efficient with the technology. One of the things they recently offered was AI. And I started analyzing how, in a very topical kind of cursory review, very simple, I haven't even drilled down yet. And it's interesting to see how AI and what these software companies are offering will simplify the process of estimating and pre-construction to the point that you would outsource estimating to foreign countries where you can probably get the labor for cheaper. They do just as good a job. We haven't done that yet, but this will preempt even that. Because instead of needing 6 or 7 people to do a job, or to do like a massive $200 million job, you could potentially do it with 2 people. And the plans could be scanned immediately, and you're talking about a return of data that could be minutes. Again, it's continuously evolving, but before these takeoffs were done by hand. They've never been this rapid. You've never had the information at your fingertips like that. So I see what you mentioned before at the end in regards to employment. I had a lot of people in the community are going to have to be be trained in certain aspects, especially when you really talk about the construction industry. And this is not something that I foresee in 10 or 15 years. This is something that we're talking about around the corner. Because everybody wants to have some sort of strategic advantage over the next company. How can I get a price out faster? How can I be more efficient? How can I lower my costs? Especially when a lot of these projects, when all of us here were in construction, I see one of my fellow colleagues in the industry here, yes, they want great service. The University of Miami wants exceptional service. But at the end of the day, you also have to be within some sort of, confines in regards to price. So the lower price that you can provide your client is going to give you a competitive advantage. So that's where I foresee the same thing you were mentioning. I see it in my industry already. We're constantly looking for abilities to save money on projects and give us an advantage. And I think AI is going to play a major role, but that's also going to have a detrimental effect on the workforce. Because please.
So I think it's important to keep in mind that these technologies are built by teams that are mostly VC-backed, that the whole thing about VC-backed culture, which I'm part of that, for better or worse, is to scale as soon as possible and as fast as possible, right? So right now, what I'm hearing is there's a mismatch between the technology that has potential to scale exponentially and the business adopting it, that's thinking about it as a way of reducing costs rather than a way of increasing product. And so you could do both, right? And you could see this across every industry. They want to increase profit, fire 10,000 people, right? Instead of applying technology that makes those 10,000 people exponentially more productive. So I think there's going to have to be a shift in mentality to the same mentality that built the technology. If the industry is going to have an aligned way where they're not going to lose jobs because they're thinking about it as a growth potential rather than a reduction of labor potential.
I think that this is a matter of concern. We, for example, in Broadway Maylan, we are thinking that we need to focus on very senior staff because that kind of production work can be delegated and in the future could be assumed mostly by these new tools. That's reducing our size in some way. For example, the production of plans, I mentioned before, the beam models, it is anticipated that we will have tools to do it automatically. We will not rely on a lot of people drawing, that will be done automatically thanks to the artificial intelligence. So we are trying to focus on retain the very senior talent, project architects and the brain behind the projects, but not to recruit production staff. That's a consequence of these new technologies as well. And the outcome is that we are going to have less jobs. For me, it's clear.
I also see that potentially being an issue. Again, I'm not involved in the VC world or private equity, but I foresee just by what I'm seeing in front of me and the evolution over the last year, but you're more of an astute professional in regards to this, more on the ground, actually building every single day. My concern is that potentially we could face that, not in project management. I think what you said was very important. Also, it combines with what you said. You're not going to replace the human body on the job site. I think it's very possible to do that. Because you're talking about a litany of different things that are critically important to day-to-day operations. Number one being safety. I don't care what robot you put on a job site, it's completely different when you have a human being on a job site. So I foresee some changes coming on that front. The next question that I have is one that's geared towards me. I'll ask myself. It's how will AI affect cities and administration? I'm going to put a rabbit out of the hat. I'm going to ask Raimundo to answer this question. Come on up here.
How does AI affect cities and administration?
Tell them about your background and who you are.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Raimundo Rodolfo. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer and Director of Innovation and Technology in City of Gables, this city. I was an engineer in the telecommunication industry during the 90s, and I joined the city in 2004. It's doing an amazing journey. We have a great team of 25 people in the Innovation and Technology Department, and with the support from city leadership, like Mayor Lago, we have been able to do a lot of initiatives. So AI for us, I see it more as augmented intelligence, not too much as artificial intelligence. So those are tools that we leverage. We use them in multiple areas. We use them, for example, in customer service. If you visit the city website, Gables.com, or the city's, you download the city's mobile app, please download it. We have a new mobile app. It's called Gables Citizen Center. Or you visit our Smart City Hub, which is a smart city platform. You will find Ada. Ada is our artificial intelligence digital assistant. We developed Ada initially with scientists from MIT and with funding from NSF. Later, our software engineers, sometimes with interns from the Institute of Data Science and Computing, we have continued to evolve Ada. So today, Ada has multiple manifestations, personas. For example, when you visit Gables.com, when you go to the city mobile app, when you are requesting service from the city, like you are taking a photo of a pothole or a graffiti, so Ada helps you navigate that, never replacing the human experience, because we program Ada so she always offers the option. You want to talk to a real person. So we always offer that option because the idea is to help facilitate 24/7, but never to replace. Other AI use cases in public safety and traffic management. The mayor mentioned our modular AI-powered poles. They are first in North America. You will find them in the financial district in Alhambra Circle. We have two. One of them was redesigned with Pininfarina, which is an industrial design firm, to make it more similar to the architecture of Gables, with the help, by the way, by Dean El-Khoury and the School of Architecture that they were advisors during that process. And so we continue applying AI to improve quality of life, and that's the goal for us.
So what you just experienced is, I call it the cheat code. This is a legitimate cheat code. I guess I'm older than a lot of people here. If you ever play like Mario Brothers, you put a cheat code and you got like access to a private level you couldn't reach. This is the cheat code. I don't even try to answer because this is leaps and bounds ahead of my knowledge in regards to AI and technology. I always tell people when I have the chance to speak with this gentleman is, don't give him your card. Don't try to hire him. He's staying with the city, okay? Stay with the city. All jokes aside, the city is doing a lot, and we're putting our money where our mouth is. Not only in groundbreaking technology, but we understand we spent over $500,000 this year, just this past year, in revamping our website. We use the same firm that designed the NASA website, along with Tesla websites. We understand the importance of being one step ahead of any other municipality. We want to make sure that the services that we offer you are world-class services. While the city of Coral Gables has the second lowest millage rate for a full-service city in Miami-Dade County, we set ourselves apart by being as efficient with your money as possible. We want you to have an experience, whether you live in the city or you do business in the city, that is one that you walk away and say, listen, I'm proud of engaging the city in one form or another. We understand the importance, and we leverage a relationship that we have with the University of Miami on multiple different fronts, from Teddy in regards to sustainability, to our friends at Dr. Frank's office. This is an amazing resource in our own backyard. And George Merrick, when he founded the city of Coral Gables in 1925, next year will be our centennial, he understood the importance that every great city has to have an amazing institution, the University of Miami. So what he did was, he was the founder of the University of Miami. So our success, the city's success, is directly correlated with the University of Miami's success. So I wanted you to experience this gentleman, and I hope you get a chance after in a break to really reach out, because we're looking for opportunities to collaborate. That is key. I do something that no other elected official has ever done, and I tell you this because, not only because I'm proud of it, but I'm also looking for opportunities. Every single Friday, starting at 2 o'clock, I do what is called open office hours. You can come and meet with me at 2 o'clock, no appointment necessary, every single Friday for the last 11 years, and it ends at 6 o'clock. I sit at my desk, you walk in, and whether it's a simple pothole that hasn't been corrected, we meet with staff, we document it, and we put it into a log where our incredible staff, addresses that issue and we follow up with you, or it can be something as complicated as a mobile permitting opportunity, where now an employee brought it to my attention, and we started that 5 years ago, and now we do over 300 mobile permits for people who are disabled, single mothers, single fathers, grandparents, individuals who are war veterans. We come to your house and we address your permits there. A lot of other things come out of open office hours, but that's something that, again, I ask you, come and join us, come and meet with me, bring me your great ideas, because that is something that has set the city apart. You mentioned something about Pininfarina. If you know about Ferrari, they've had a relationship for over 100 years. We didn't want to just have smart poles and be the only city in the state or the country that has that. We wanted to have the finest, most beautifully designed. That's what sets Coral Gables apart. We invest in infrastructure and technology to set ourselves apart from everyone else, to make sure that your experience is not just good, but exceptional. Anybody else like that in regards to that?
Well, I really appreciate what you're saying. I think I think the governments have a lot to say about this, and probably the way to secure that the AI is used in our favor is pending on the governments, really, because majority of the decisions are now being taken by the technological giants and the industries, and of course you can optimize your results thanks to this tool, but reality is that the regulators, the governments have to establish the rules and to determine how to use it, what is the purpose, what is the vision toward the future. We cannot leave all these changes just on the industry. And I appreciate what you are saying. I think it's a lot to say, and what's happening is that normally the industry is going faster than the regulators. So regulators are behind, and probably we need to do an effort to cope with it.
I think one of the greatest opportunities with AI is predictive analytics. Getting ahead of the issues that are going to arise. In St. Augustine, Florida, our nation's oldest continuously occupied European settlement in North America. Our plan is our nation's first city to become our nation's smartest city. One of the things we're doing there is increasingly seeing flooding events that are occurring, not just even in king tides, but a regular afternoon thunderstorm during the summer. So we're installing flood sensors throughout the city, and we're collecting the data to know when to predict them and to identify the infrastructure that needs to be addressed now, so that as sea level rise continues, it causes less interruptions and damage to the city. The first step we've done is raise our traffic signals on pedestals by 1.5 feet, and all stormwater pump stations are currently being raised now. And then we're anticipating that will get us a 25-year holdout, plus all of the other sea walls, drainage systems that are being redesigned to accommodate that. So instead of waiting for the call on the pothole, let's know when what conditions need to be repaired when, so we avoid the issue altogether.
Thank you. The next question is for Olivia, because she touched on it a little bit at the beginning of our conversation. AI feeds on information, and the more data it collects, the better. However, its collection in the city possess ethical challenges by advancing individual freedoms and the rights to protection of personal data. Are there sufficient regulations, or is this a pending issue that you see for the future?
Depends on what country you're in, right? Well, one thing on the last question, which kind of leads into this one, is I think if there would be more collaboration with the companies building the technology and the cities that we want to, the cities that should be regulating it, then there would be a better understanding between the two. The city would understand all the possibilities, how it works, and why not to be scared, for example, or maybe what to be cautious of. And then maybe the technology would be more favorable towards what the city needs. And so more collaboration, and I'm happy to attend one of your open hours, and we could discuss that further. But in terms of data, the data that we're focused on is data of the future, right? We want to understand zoning over time. We want to understand how it affects population over time. We're using, all the data that we're using is publicly available by the Census Bureau, by municipalities, by counties. I believe the future is in understanding every little data point within a building through IoT. Imagine if all IoT devices feed into the blockchain, and now it's readily available. Everybody can understand how much a building is using in resources. Are there any leaks? And when you do that, you'll have eventually, and this is going a little bit further, but fractional trading of buildings. And the reason that's important is because there will be an incentive to have better buildings, better roads, better urban systems. Those will be the ones that will get the funding. Liquidity will be the reason why we have better buildings in the future, in my opinion. And all of that is necessary. For that to happen, we need data. We need transparency. And so I think that's something that technology and AI can give us, transparency of when the roads are breaking, when there's a pothole, but transparency of how buildings are operating. And I'm not in the space of personal data, and that there might be some overlaps, but I'm also in the kind of state of mind that if I'm not doing anything wrong, I don't mind that I'm being surveilled, and I don't think that surveillance and control are the same thing, which is something that we can discuss.
Well, as you say, I think it depends on where we are. No? What's happening now is that in countries that are more illiberal, these technologies are being implemented a lot faster, without not any hesitation about jumping on top of individual rights. And that's what worries us. That's what's happening in China, and China is becoming a very big giant in implementing the city brains and all the systems. And it's a surveillance system. It's a kind of a surveillance system. So everybody is monitored, there is a social credit, and you are registered everywhere because there are cameras everywhere. You cannot escape of that control system. And because they can do it, they are going faster in developing the softwares and the AI. What could happen is that in the future, that kind of city brains are implemented in other areas, not just in that countries. That's the reason I think we need to do an effort to have a vision of the future. What do we want to do with our societies? What is the goal? Not to leave just the technology moving alone with the logic of efficiency. We need to have a future vision and do our best through our governments to drive the technology into that direction. For me, that's the key point.
Right, just that. I think it's about intention, because I grew up in a communist country where there was surveillance at all times, devoid of technology, and we couldn't, aggregate in more than 3 people because you would be blacklisted, and they would know somehow, right? So I don't think technology is the problem when it comes to surveillance. It's the intention of the system that's using it, and I think really making sure that those who have the power to have the intention behind the technology are the right people, and that's a human problem, not a technology problem. And I agree that it has to be addressed.
Just to touch on your point, because I agree with both of you. The city of Coral Gables and Ramos could do a much better job explaining than I would. But a few years ago, we invested millions of dollars in a camera system for our downtown. And I've seen it in use one time. The one time that it was used was in a demo that they provided for the elected officials so that we could see how efficient it is. And I'll give you a quick example. There's a robbery in our downtown. We're looking for an individual wearing a silver jacket, black pants, blue shirt, Hispanic male, with black shoes and black socks, seen on Miracle Mile and Ponce. And there are 500 people at that intersection. The technology will wipe away anyone that does not meet that description and will potentially be left with 3 or 4 people. And we could immediately understand the direction that the individual was headed. Was a crime committed? Was it a hit and run? What actually happened? You may be asking, that's very dangerous technology. We have a multiple layered system of redundancy to ensure that anybody that walks into that room has to sign in, has to get the proper protocols in place that are met, and that there's two people in the room, ensuring that, again, no one is using that technology in a way that it should not be used. And those are protocols that were put in place by the police department, within the police department, and the constant monitoring of the person that's monitoring the system, literally. So there's a lot of cameras in place, no matter what. It's all about how you said, in my opinion, how you use that technology. Is it for the good? And that's why I think one of the blessings that I always mention that we have as a son of immigrants who came to this country with nothing, running from a totalitarian government, is that we live in the greatest country in the world. We can never forget that. But there's nothing else. Oh, sorry. Yes, sir.
And there are other technologies beyond cameras that are saving lives for police officers. We have a very high crime prone area. Unfortunately, in Jacksonville, in a neighborhood that's in the top 10 regularly for murders and violent crimes. Our police department has put out sonar sensors around the area. Anytime there's a gunshot, we know within a meter accuracy where that occurred. So they know if it's in the living room or the kitchen of a house. The officers will respond. They are very aware of the situation that's happening. So they're prepared to investigate what occurred. It turns out about 7 to 1 gunshots are related to somebody just shooting off a gun in the middle of their living room. The others are prepared and are able to respond quicker to these violent crimes, and the enforcement rate has risen dramatically. So there's opportunities not to be preventative, because if they come in a bad situation, the officers are aware they're less likely to be engaged in a one-on-one situation.
My understanding is that technology is called ShotSpotter, if anybody's interested. In closing, I think we'd like to open it up so I think we can have an opportunity to ask any questions. This is a simple question, a broad question. I think we've touched on many of the other topics here. What is the future of Miami? And what is the role that AI will play? What do you think what do you see in the future? A little complicated question, but what do you foresee in the next 5 or 10 years? And like I started this conversation, I remember when I talked to my dad about a PC and they bought me the first PC, I was trying to explain to my dad, and he was like, I have to save someone's life today in the hospital. A person that educated couldn't figure out a PC. Now my daughters run circles around me at 12 and 9 for simple technology. Forget AI. They were explaining to me about what they're learning in coding and AI at Carrollton in their school. It will show you how one generation leaps and bounds and the level of intelligence and how we're moving forward. What do you foresee? Especially a person who came from a different country and has that background, understands, has tasted freedom, has lived without freedom, and has your expertise. What do you foresee in the city of Miami in the next 10 or 15 years as AI continues to evolve?
So I think what's special about Miami is a kind of collective hunger for progress. And we see that across Miami, and we see how much that's helped, put Miami on the map in the last 5 years, especially. And so if Miami continues to welcome technology and implement that, if we can get Miami to have a more intimate relationship between technology and governance, we can see Miami be an example of a city to all other cities. And what does that mean? That means we are understanding our infrastructure and the fragility of it when it comes to sea level rise and sustainability. We are testing areas that might right now be deemed like we're not going to be able to live there. And we're going to be able, let's say this is my ideal Miami, right? We're going to use those test sites for new infrastructure tests, new architecture that could live without infrastructure, autonomous architecture, sustainable architecture, We have sites that will be underwater that are perfect for testing that, or how do you bring in help to those sites? So I think because of where we live and the natural constraints that we have and the natural risks that we have, it's a perfect place to experiment, and we have so much funding coming in to have those experiments. So I'm very optimistic about being here as a technologist and technologist in the real estate world. So yeah, that's my take.
Jorge?
Well, I'm going to talk from the distance, no, because I'm not much involved in Miami, but I think that it's a fantastic city with a fantastic weather, with a problem, which is common to the whole American way of life, which is the car-centric culture and the extended city with a lot of commuting time and cars going around. And it's not a walkable city, and I think the future is related with rethink our cities to become more in proximity, to reduce the commuting, to pedestrianize the streets, to have more human lives, to make more sustainable cities. And that for me will be the goal, the vision for the future. That could be done. It's a fantastic challenge. And we need to do it because we are obliged because of the climate change. For me, that's the main goal we need to have. And that will be the future Miami would like to see.
Harry?
I think Miami's now one of the greatest cities in the world. The passion, the multiculturalism, the commitment to innovation, the growth in the financial services market. And I think we have the opportunity to continue to invest in people. One of our greatest challenges is what happens to the need for affordability, the need for job growth and opportunity, and making those investments now will help us to drive an economy and ladders of opportunity for everyone. And I love Miami.
Well, first off, I'd like to, as we conclude, I'd like to say thank you for allowing me the privilege to be your moderator today, and also to serve you as a mayor. But also, I feel like I've learned a lot from all of you, and I hope to learn and meet many of you after this symposium. Again, please feel free to reach out to me and to any of these individuals who are here. The way we make a change and a bold change is by listening and by truly having exchanges with individuals, even those that may disagree with you. And I think that's one of the things that elected officials don't want to hear. When you're in a room with people who oppose you or people who may not agree with what you say or what you want to do, I think it's an opportunity for collaboration and finding middle ground. So I want to thank all of you for being here, and I'd like to open it up to the floor if anybody has any questions or any ideas or any opportunities.
I wanted to know what is the intersection between now that we have in Miami and I guess the whole state of Florida, the influx of the population from the north, from our neighbors, from New York, New Jersey, from California, also from South America, Central America, policy, the housing and the traffic issues that we have, and also how does AI integrate into all that for the city of Miami? So therefore, we have a vision saying, what is a smarter city that we see in the future, and how does that all intersect? I'm
going to tell you what I hope, and as a person who's learning every day about AI, I hope that AI drives prices down. Let's like we mentioned before, if we can save money, we can save time. Time is money, correct? When I work on a project for 2 years, 3 years before I put a shovel in the ground, if I can be more efficient, it costs me less money. It costs me less carry. When I mean carry, I mean a bank loan. I think there's an opportunity to do things with more efficiency, where there may be some drawbacks in regards to whether human capital has to be retrained in some other form. But I think what we're seeing here today, and we have to be honest with ourselves, we talked about transportation. I served in the TPO, we're talking about potentially a $10 billion lift in in regards to real transportation here in South Florida. We have to make the very, very tough decisions. I voted against the BRT system, which is being installed all the way to Homestead. I said we need to go overhead rail, build it once and build it right. I was outvoted. I fought, I wrote a resolution, 6 other cities signed it. It was against the highway, which is gonna connect onto the 836. It was a highway from the area of Kendall, it's a $2 billion highway. I said we should build overhead rail. We should not build a highway, no more highways. Highways are an invitation for more cars. We have issues like septic to sewer conversion. You wanna be a world-class city, we're serious about this, we need significant investment. We can only get away with so much being sun and fun. We have to take this to the next level. What does that mean? We have to be a community that welcomes investment. We have to understand that it costs a lot to live in the city, and it's only gonna get more expensive. You look at the city beautiful, we live in an oasis. What does that oasis mean? 1.2 million people use our trolley for free. I expanded our trolleys to Saturdays using TPO money demonstration projects. In the first 2 years, it was free. I just ended, I think, this past year. We have 1.2 million people that use our trolley for free. We have 2 metro rail connections. We're in an affluent city. You're telling me we're the largest, and this is the argument that I made before the Miami-Dade County Board, the BCC, excuse me. I said, you're telling me that the largest growth, which is forthcoming, which is in Homestead, where all the employees were lower level employees that one day will be higher level employees, who are in the middle of being educated, or who have immigrated to this country, or can only afford to live south, why do they deserve a second tier or a third tier level of transportation? When you look at the studies even provided by the county, very clearly, it says the more modalities, the less ridership. So you're gonna force these people to ride a bus to the Daytran station, then on the Daytran station, get on a metro rail, and on the metro rail, get on the people mover. They're not gonna ride it, they're not gonna get out of their cars. So we have to make the very, very tough decisions. If you wanna be a world-class city, you're gonna have to spend $10, $12 billion on infrastructure. How are you gonna get there? We have not been able to get the federal government due to multiple reasons. We need to have ridership. We need to prove we need to have ridership. And I don't wanna get too to the weeds, because I don't wanna take up everybody's time. But this city has a lot of work to do. This community has a lot of work to do. And we really need to focus in on making very, very tough decisions and not worry about elections. I can tell you about what the city of Coral Gables is doing, and it'll blow your mind away. I have solar on my house for the last 7 years on my second electric car. By the way, I'm a registered Republican, just so you know. So when other people talk about solar and saving the environment, well, put your money where your mouth is. My house runs 110% on the environment. We passed the most stringent legislation in regards to sustainability. We're lowering our carbon footprint by 35%. We're the only city in Miami-Dade County, the state of Florida that I'm aware of, that is putting $4 million a year into a fund for the next 25 years, and we've been doing it for 6 years already for sea level rise mitigation. We have the largest 100% electric car fleet in the state of Florida. We have the largest charging network in the state of Florida. We have the most robust lead ordinance for construction. Miami-Dade County is 50,000 square feet. You must make your building LEED or equivalent. In our city, it's 20,000 square feet. I wrote all these pieces of legislation. And I can talk to you about parks and all the other things. But we become overtly political. It's them against us against them. And the only thing we're doing is hurting our community. We have to step above this and come to an understanding that whether you believe in sea level rise, whether you don't believe in that type of legislation, that's perfectly fine. But there's a significant amount of money and efficiencies being green. It's a proven fact. It's a proven fact, and we have to work together with the private sector, over a long-term period and make investments and make the tough choices to see those investments bear fruit, not today, but in 10 years. And Raimundo can talk to you about that. We made decisions 10 years ago in regards to our finances, overfunding our pensions, our reserves, doing things in our city that type of belt tightening is paying dividends today. That's why we have the second lowest tax rate for a full service city in Miami-Dade County. all the luxuries that the city of Coral Gables has. So it has to be a collaborative effort. And in regards to AI, I hope that it can drive down costs, it can make us more efficient, because those are driving forces in the private sector, in our industry, to make more money, to be more nimble, to understand that we can make certain decisions and we're not bogged down by debt or by lack of cash flow. And that's what I hope.
Let me talk about that for a second. So we're seeing, we collect this data and we build software around it. Our software is 800 times faster than doing it in the way we do it today. So we save 6 to 8 months of work in 3 minutes, okay? And our counterparts that are also working in digitizing the building code will do the same. And hopefully our cities can expedite planning and the permitting process, right? So that now we can have faster products. The answer is having more efficiency to bring more population in a comfortable and safe way, right? And I think my spiel is let AI do its thing, embrace AI, embrace efficiency, fund it, right? So that we can build faster, so we can permit faster, so that we can have more efficiency and more innovation. And in terms of traffic, I think this is not my expertise, of course, but what I like that I'm hearing is if we have autonomous vehicles, my car, when I'm not using it, can be an Uber, a very cheap Uber, right? So less people will have vehicles because existing vehicles will do more work, right? And so there's the whole problem of the workforce, of course, but that's not where I sit, right? And if we want less traffic, we want less cars. We want less cars, autonomous vehicles are gonna solve that. So that's my take on your question.
I think we need to go for shared mobility. That's the goal, but that's a change in the culture. There is a very fixed culture here based on the private cars. It will be difficult, but with proper regulations and incentives, you can do it, and that will be a better future. For me, that's the main line of action.
So I think we have to, from a government perspective, rethink how we deploy public transit. There are 2 public transit systems in the country that are self-supporting: Disney and Google Bus. Everything else requires government support to operate. I personally think transit should be free. You mentioned you're doing work here that is a public good. The average cost of vehicle ownership is $800 a month. If you think about an income of $40,000 to $50,000, you're ultimately making the choice of how you're going to spend your rent, how you're going to pay your bills versus owning a car. And doing urban planning so that we can eliminate the need, creating shared vehicle ownership is really a great challenge that we have to face to improve mobility, urban planning, and how we live.
What else? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shaw, Senor Ramos, Senor Dawson, Mrs. Ramos, and Vince, Mayor Lago. Thank you very much. So first of all, I suggest that if you don't know already, Miami has what's called a Transit Alliance. It's a couple of young advocates looking to get to that level that you're speaking about. But my question, it comes back to what I learned in my ecosystem science and policy classes. So what I see is an upstream, downstream problem. And it's kind of ironic that we are in South Florida, here in Miami, which is downstream from the capital, Tallahassee, up there. And when you think about the natural flow of the Okeechobee River and the Everglades, it's even more ironic because it is downstream. It comes down here. So my question is, how do we move from solving these downstream problems? And I wholeheartedly believe that Mayor Lago, what you're doing will have huge ripple effects into the future. As a mayor, looking back in the history books, I think it'll be very clear about the initiatives that you've done, and that you are very future forward-looking. But my question is, like, yes, so moving from here, because this is collectively a Florida issue, not just a South Florida issue, how do we get on the same page to share your technological capabilities with the rest of the cities, St. Augustine, how you could share that with Miami Beach. I grew up in Key Biscayne, village of Key Biscayne, and yeah, along the coast of the entire state.
I'm gonna answer that question. I'll tell you the truth.
Oh, and being a Republican as well, I just think that's very interesting, your perspective as well.
I'll tell you, I'm a Republican based on my beliefs in fiscal and fiduciary responsibility. Socially, I'm a pretty liberal guy. I got more libertarian, not independent. It requires for elected officials to put their egos aside and to not do what's easy. To sign a letter opposing the county mayor building a $2 billion highway and not win me many friends. Opposing a BRT, a bus rapid transit system, which is a bus that is like a fancy metro, but it's not, it's an actual bus. And that would be many friends. Okay? It requires us to stop electing people who do not understand about business, who have never made payroll, and do not have employees. It stops, we have to stop allowing the bickering between two parties to dictate the outcome, whatever scenario we're in. And we have to be smart and understand that we don't know everything. And trust in the private sector and make incredibly hard decisions, not to win elections, but to move this community forward. We are cutting our nose in spite of our face, investing $300-400 million in a BRT system when we should spend $2 billion on an overhead rail system that is not going to stop traffic on US 1. That's going to allow a free flow of cars. That's going to make it a smooth ride for where the largest growth is coming, all the way to downtown Miami. Think about it. That takes real leadership. It takes making tough decisions. It takes potentially getting 200 individuals like the people that I shouldn't be sitting up here with in a room and saying the private sector has to invest with the public sector. We need to figure this out. It may take 10 years, but we're going to make an investment today and make a roadmap that in 10 years is going to bear fruit. I can give you examples that I've done it. I funded the underline. It took me 7 years. Now $1 taxpayer money, it's all using impact fees. Funded a project that over 10 years is going to raise $25 million to buy parks for the downtown. I did it by adding a 0.5% to the permit cost of developers. So I can talk to you about things that we've done that are not most favorable to certain interests and who I've opposed. Like I wrote an ordinance that opposed hourly motels. I was the first city in Miami-Dade County in the state of Florida. I had every motel owner that lives in the city put money into a PAC and call me a racist 4 years ago. Because I signed an anti-CRT and Black Lives Matter letter in my daughter's Catholic school in Carrollton. Should I have signed that letter? Yeah, I should have signed it 10 times, not once. Again, I do this because I love the city. I do this because at the end of the day, I want to leave a legacy. I'm not afraid of who I am and what I stand for, and I will not allow anybody to tell me what I should think. That is the type of expression and leadership that we need in this community, because for too far we put political parties first and our own self-interest behind the interests of the people that we are blessed and honored to serve. And we have to understand, like, how could you think about this? Let me give you an example. How could you have a federal mandate to clean up the bay? I'm the vice chair of the watershed board. How could you have a federal mandate to clean up the bay? And that's come and gone. Letter amendment, the outfalls have to be addressed, come and gone, we haven't been able to figure it out. It'll show you that we can't even do what's correct, and we're willing to jeopardize our tax base. So, well, how are we gonna jeopardize our tax base? 25% of our tax base comes from properties on the water. 40% of our tax base here in Coral Gables comes from our downtown. University of Miami doesn't pay taxes. Neither do churches, neither do non-for-profits. Think about if the bay is polluted, and think about if all the fish die, and think about if the coral reefs die. What's gonna happen to property values on the most richest properties in the city of Coral Gables? We're barely skating by with a 2 or 3% surplus every single year. If property values go down 3, 4, 5, it's catastrophic. I'm gonna have to raise taxes. The same thing in our downtown. We have to treat this like a business and understand that there's no other way to move forward unless we make very, very tough decisions. And plan for the future, not for the moment. That's my opinion. Some people don't like that, but at the end of the day, that's why I'm not a public servant. At the end of the day, I'm a private citizen who's less an honor to serve as mayor. But I understand there's a finite amount of time here, and I want to make as much change as possible.
I'd like to add on that, and politics is people. We're selfish and very interested in promoting our needs above even the needs of the community when you're an elected official. I sat down with a senator a couple of years ago. He told me, Terry, you don't understand. If I partner with the Democrats, they're going to take me off my committees and move my office to the basement. So we have to get away from the divisiveness that we have in politics today. It used to be a fight over the middle. Now it's who can activate the extremes. Until we can come together politically as a country, we're going to continue to be challenged to get things done. The second is regulation. The regulations that we have are intended to limit innovation in the marketplace in these areas, and they're done because we're in a litigious society. Until we can allow more options for people to move forward and truly innovate, particularly in these areas of mobility, we're going to continue to be hamstrung by the same problems we have today.
On the bright side, as we're dealing with personalities and we're dealing with these frictions and that are, I agree, are really important to solve. And thank you for being authentic and honest. Technology is still growing, and technology is being funded, and technology is boundless. So we're working in 250 cities. At the end of the year, we want to be in 600 cities, and next year we want to be in 19,000 towns and everywhere. And no politics is going to stop that, right? What's interesting is when a city is ready to implement this stuff and ready to take advantage, the technology will be there. And those cities will light up the sky, and other cities will have to compete. So I'm pretty optimistic. I think like the market will regulate itself, and regardless of the personalities and the conversations, technology will show improvements in the cities that adopt it. But again, that's my personal opinion.
Thank you guys for being here. My background, I'm a graduate student in the School of Architecture and professionally I'm a general contractor. Mayor Lago, you spoke about some AI tools in design and pre-construction. Terry, you spoke about some AI tools with kind of project management. Are there any tools that the City of Coral Gables is looking at for plan review and permitting? Because that's, at least in my experience, a sticking point that can take a lot of time and cost a lot of money. And it's very uncertain.
I'm going to be very brief on that front. Raimundo could answer better, but we have taken huge steps over the last 3 years to modernize the process. We're paperless on 2 fronts. Number 1, digital in regards to plan submission, and number 2, over a few million documents have been digitized and put away, so you'll never walk into one of our offices now and see shelves and shelves and shelves of documents that have to be stored there because we're at capacity, let's say, in a warehouse. It's all been taken care of. I would say 6 years ago, before Surami Cabrera, who is no longer with the city, she left a few months ago, she started, we were in the red in the permitting department. Right now, we're over $10 million in the black. By finding efficiencies, really understanding the process. Right now, the purpose and the benefits of having gone digital in regards to plan submission is really bearing fruit. We're seeing people have their plans reviewed in a very expeditious fashion. Instead of reviewing plans and lugging them from one discipline to another, now you have MEPs and structural reviewing them at the same time Durham and Wasson will be reviewing them. So again, efficiencies, save time, save money. How do you save money? Because he worked for somebody who owns a piece of property who has a bank note on that property. And every month they're paying a mortgage on it, they're paying taxes on it, they're paying a construction loan. These are all things that time is money. So that's where I think AI will play a major role by lowering costs and increasing efficiencies. Hopefully that will be translated into an opportunity for more people to move into our city because we'll be able to offer products at a much cheaper price. What is raising the price? What is raising the price of rents? Cap rates. You have to understand that when you look at a property, this is what I do for a living, you have to look at land value, soft costs, hard costs, and all these have risen and the carry of the product. It's only increased the cost of construction, the cost of delivering a product, and the only way they're going to bring that to market is if they provide a rent that's commensurate with the cost of producing. So I hope that all the things that we're doing in the city, and I probably left out a few, will translate into a process that will be more welcoming towards construction, development, industry. Thank you.
Let me ask you something. There's a potential future in which the city can digitize all of its parcels that have development capacity and all of its underutilized parcels. So we've done that already, in case you want to look at it. And then generate an automated, amazing, we should compare notes. And then, I will. And then generate using generative design, a floor plan that would be immediately permitted because it was done in-house. And then the architects have some wiggle room and definitely all the design freedom, right? And the same company that brought you the AI that checks the plans can check that aspect, which is not as technical as the actual floor plan itself. So then if somebody says, okay, and even the city could say, we're interested in these parcels being turned into housing, and therefore, by using these plans, you're instantly permitted. Is there a future, are there conversations where this can happen?
This is just my opinion. I don't think that has a future in the city of Coral Gables. And I'll tell you why. Even though it's a beautiful idea and a beautiful concept. Every single project that comes to the city, depending on its zoning, no matter on its zoning, has to come before the commission. Unless it's as of right. If the project is mixed use and everything is as of right, and it has commercial components on the first floor and residential above it, it has to come to the commission. That's as a result of the charter and the code. So nobody can just get a permit by going through some sort of digital process. There has to be engagement. The city of Coral Gables also has multiple review boards, from planning and zoning, the Board of Architecture. We're one of the few cities in South Florida that have a Board of Architecture, aesthetic review, and a real understanding of beauty. That's what sets the city apart from any other city. A lot of people complain. I get it, I understand it. And we try to make it as simple as possible. But there has to be checks and balances. Because every time that I have the opportunity to speak in front of a group of individuals and I explain what are requirements in the city of Coral Gables, they love it. They love it. They think, keep the standards as high as possible. Property values, aesthetic, cleanliness, ensuring that we are the benchmark. But I don't see that there's just a one-stop shop where you submit something and it checks all the boxes, because in most cases, when you're coming before us, people are asking for a variance. Every single project basically has a variance. And sometimes I'll give you legislation that I've presented where I've gotten a hard time from some of my colleagues in the commission. I would rather see a building that's 1 or 2 stories taller, that's allowed by the code, but your density is the amount of square footage and your density is the amount of units is the same, but you have a small park right next to the property. I've done that 4 times already in the last 6 months in our downtown, and we're gonna go from having 1 park to having 5 parks within 1 year. Next one is Publix on Andalusia. It's a 20,000 square foot parcel that will be owned by the city. How did we do it? I worked with them for 4 years. I got them to knock down the Publix, stack the parking on the 2nd floor instead of being surface parking like you see now on Andalusia and the June. And the 20,000 square feet that's left on the corner being made into a beautiful park within a 30-second walk to Miracle Mile. And it's going to be owned by the city of Coral Gables. I did the same thing with Armando, Codina, and Manicadre, who are bringing forth a rental building which is under construction in front of the Mercedes-Benz dealership. They own the parcel next door, which is the current used parking lot for Mercedes-Benz, 15,000 square feet, 12,000 square feet, excuse me. I got them to give us that. We're going to have another park there. There's 2 other ones that we're working on right now. So to me, there's always an opportunity to work with a developer to say, if you want something that's a public benefit, a significant public benefit, sometimes my asks are a little over the top, but at the end of the day, my job and my responsibilities to the residents of the city and to the business owners, it's not to the developer. We want the best product. I want traffic calming, I want lights, I want sidewalks, I want shade, I want trees, I want commitments for transportation, investments in our trolleys. So we have to be able to negotiate. And that's where I think we fall short as elected officials who don't have the experience in the private sector. They don't understand that doing things as of right sometimes is not in the best interest of the city. We should be able, as we have more and more development, to take advantage of these parcels that we have and say, let's build parks and open space in our downtown. So I find it hard. I find it hard to see something cookie cutter, maybe in a city that is not as not in the spotlight, like the city of Coral Gables, Key Biscayne, Miami, all the cities here in South Florida. Maybe something up north where there's a lot more expansive land, tracts of land that you can say maybe something cookie cutter would work. But in a city like ours, it's a little bit too complicated, and there's a lot of things that need to be hashed out in regards to design, architecture, infrastructure, sea level rise, a lot of things that we're dealing with, and there's no one-stop shop answer. One last question.
Good morning. Do you have the AI technology right now to install red light cameras or speed cameras?
Yes, they've been active in Florida for almost 10 years. There's been a lot of political challenges with that because the companies that came in to do it did it on a profit sharing basis. We'll get 50% of the fines that you collect, and that's been really a big challenge. So there was a bill passed 2 years ago that eliminated that on state roads because of the enforcement aspect and the perceived incentive to give people tickets. So camera enforcement is only allowed in 2 areas now. One is around school zones, and I'm trying to remember the other. But that's the only one that's currently being used today because of the perception that we're trying to penalize people rather than keep them safe.
I may just have to satisfy, I know we're time sensitive, and I want to take this gentleman's question in the back. There's a discussion right now at the state level to allow it in schools, in front of schools. It's a hot button in regards to politics. I'm in favor of allowing it in front of schools. I think it's important, especially as we try to add more safety to the children in those areas. But politically, it's a hot potato. And again, preemption also supersedes a lot of what the city wants to do. Yes, sir, in the back.
Hi there, Matt Walter. I'm with the Canadian Council here. Glad to see this kind of discussion on smart cities going on here, and thanks for the time. Olivia, good to see you again. I just wanted to say, I don't think it's an A or B, could you do it kind of thing. It's filling in the parts that you need to find the efficiency curves that you want and letting AI do things like auditing and background running and pushing together. I think, well, this is more of a comment, I guess, sorry. But I think we would do well to have boards get people together on different sides of this issue instead of mimicking the very thing that you were talking about, hobbling us other with, both sides in the extremes yelling at each other. get together to find out where that pivot point is and find out where those technology and the enforcement and ideals that you want can work together. Is I think the biggest problem I have bringing people here sometimes, and it's been something that's been said since Jerry Harr was head of the Beacon Council from FIU, and the other thing is we have to get rid of some of the banana republic nature of the area to make it look long term, to make it get in there. And I think it's a great way to sweep in that change and take away the opportunities for corruption. Wouldn't you think?
Listen, I welcome dialogue any day of the week. I mean, I'm involved in a litany of different opportunities where we discuss issues. We have opportunities to go back and forth in dissenting opinions. But I think your point was whether AI could be applied to rezoning of properties as just.
I think you're both on two sides of a fence, and if you looked at each other, you'd see there's a great morphing part in the middle. I'm sure you both know that, but I mean, there's that. But I think more importantly, it's using technology and forward leadership like you're talking about to bring in the things that can sweep out the inefficient structures that allow things like corruption, delays, and issues with, people finagling with the political system out of their ability, and makes it cheaper. So why wouldn't we do it?
So what I want to say, thank you for the comment, and thank you for the pushback, because I think it's important to understand the limitations and to understand what's important to the city, right? And what I have in mind, and maybe it changed through your comment, which we can iterate fast, is it's not cookie cutter. It's designed within the city. It's like, I want parks. I want these 4 lots to combine into a park, and therefore the developer's gonna have to go around it, and I'm gonna invest in some architecture plans with the best architects to have that ready. And if you do that, boom, you're accepted, and now you've saved so much money, which means your bottom line is so much bigger because of all this time. And so it doesn't have to be cookie cutter, and it doesn't have to be AI generated, but there are efficiencies that can be had. And maybe, we're not ready for that, but they're possible.
So I welcome more dialogue. I welcome anything that can be generated with AI that will make the system more and more efficient. As this gentleman who I hope we talk to after will tell you, I've always said, what do you need? And I'll get it funded. Because I've seen our city transform over the last 11 years to being a technological giant. Besides all the awards that we won, that we are leading conferences through his leadership and the manager's leadership in regards to smart cities, AI, a whole host of issues. But I think we got a little lost. I wanted to clarify. It's not that there's like a division or not an understanding. I wanted to explain to you the technical aspects of how to get a project approved and why I think AI on this aspect, potentially could it be used? Yeah, it could be used. You put a floor plan. Does it meet the setback standards? Yeah, it meets the setback standard. That's something easy that can be addressed. The setbacks are 10 feet or 15 feet. You have to have this much green coverage. Yeah, you could do that. But when you're talking about, for example, a major component of the project moving forward, talking to the architect and the side, it's the design element. So here in the city, you get Med 1, Med 2 bonus. There's bonuses that allow you to move taller, get additional height, get additional intensity, get additional FAR, but you have to go before a subjective panel, which is called the BOA. And the BOA makes decisions at certain points that I don't agree with sometimes. And say, can you move this window over here? Can you change this door? Can you use these type of materials? Can you use this roofing? And sometimes the owners are frustrated and like, listen, I don't agree with that, or sometimes it goes smoothly. But it's more subjective in front of a panel of architects that are tasked, both in the residential and commercial side, to really uphold a standard here in the city of Coral Gables. So can AI be used? Yeah, I think AI can be used on the design side, 110%. But I think there's certain things that are handled by humans that will always be handled by humans, because subjectively it's part of what defines the city of Coral Gables.
I think Olivia's the expert, but AI does not fear complexity and could streamline the whole thing really well at all those levels given time. But it's, like we said, the conversation, getting people together.
I would agree with you, she is the expert, trust me. I think I've said it 10 times, I'm the novice up here. I should be up here. Maybe you should be up here.
We need data to make decisions and to help people are engaged in that, or we're gonna continue what fragmented incrementalism, making one little decision at a time that takes us away from the optimization, the way that we can plan cities so they're truly impactful for the community.
So in closing, I want to say thank you again for allowing me the privilege, along with all these panelists. It's been a true honor. I hope that we can spend a few moments after. I may have to step out. I have a meeting now at 12 o'clock. I want to say thank you. God bless all of you. Please feel free to reach out to me or to reach out to any of these panelists, not only to discuss issues or anything you may want to talk about, but more importantly, I want to learn from you. I've learned a lot today, so thank you.